Kewan Lacy has surprisingly entered the transfer portal, and that means that Missouri is going to have to make a pivot in the portal. Let's talk about it right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And I've had a lot of Missouri fans with all this portal quarterback talk, well, truly stumping for the guys currently on the roster, including Sam Horn and incoming freshman Matt Zollers. So I want to talk about that later in the program. But unfortunately, I got to start with some bad news here, as Kewan Lacy, the Missouri true freshman running back after this past season, is reportedly entering the transfer portal, first according to On3.com. But according to Gerard Hamilton over at Power Mizzou, this really comes out of nowhere from Missouri's perspective because, well, there had been rumors that had surfaced online about Lacy possibly leaving a week ago or so. But then according to a source, I should say, close to Missouri, well, a deal had been worked out last week and Lacy was safe, and everybody at Missouri felt good about the thing, that they had a deal all wrapped up for all intents and purposes. But obviously, things can change in the transfer portal, and this one actually bums me out a little bit more than even the Williams Nwaneri transfer portal entrant. In case you missed it, Nwaneri ended up at the University of Nebraska with his old high school coach from Lee Summit North, who is now on staff with the Cornhuskers. And maybe this one bums me out more simply because it's another one. It's another transfer on top of another player that was expected to hopefully break out for Missouri next year. And by the way, I think I failed to mention that Jalen Brown, another true freshman defensive end for Missouri, entered the portal as well. He has already found his landing spot with the South Carolina Gamecocks. So that is definitely a lose-lose for Missouri, who has the Gamecocks coming to Faurot Field next season. And I will just say this, I think the last couple of cycles in the transfer portal has gotten Missouri fans a little bit spoiled. Obviously, not a lot of losses that were particularly concerning for Missouri. Well, in the case of Nwaneri and definitely Jalen Brown, and even more so, I would say Kewan Lacy, these were guys that Missouri was counting on next season. Because one thing I've been insisting for the last few weeks here is that based on Lacy's play and also Jamal Roberts' play as well, I didn't think that Missouri had to go into the portal for a running back. Now I think you probably do, because now you're looking at Jamal Roberts, who is more of a do-it-all running back necessarily, at least from what I could gauge so far last season. Maybe he'll prove me wrong going forward, but more of a, hey, he can do everything kind of guy, a valuable piece in your running back rotation, but not necessarily a guy that you want to carry the ball 25 times a game or something like that, which has typically been Eli Drinkwitz's modus operandi, with this previous season somewhat of an exception there. Although when Nate Noel was healthy and Missouri really needed a win, that type of deal, South Carolina in particular, well, Nate Noel tended to get the football. So I do think you'll probably see Missouri go into the portal with, of course, Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll graduating, and now Kewan Lacy looking to leave the program. And I know some Missouri fans who are on the more Pollyannish and optimistic side are going to say, hey, it's a running back. It's 2024. Who cares, right? That's the NFL That's the NFL model these days. But I think that NFL sentiment has gone maybe a little bit too far, especially when we're analyzing college football, because we can argue about how important a running back is in college football compared to certainly other positions. We all agree that quarterback is number one with a bullet. But there isn't a hard salary cap here that Missouri has to deal with. And I think in college football, you think about just the great Missouri teams in recent memory, for example. Well, 2023, Cody Schrader, 1,500 yards. Henry Josie in 2013. Even Tony Temple, the 2007 Missouri squad, he famously had over 200 yards in the Cotton Bowl for that game. So just that evidence alone, just from a Missouri fan's perspective, suggests that actually the running back position does matter quite a bit. Maybe it doesn't matter as much as corner or edge rusher, receiver, whatever you want to say, but it's not nothing. Let's put it that way. And darn it, I hate double negatives, and I just did one there. But regardless, without Noel, without Lacy now, and without Marcus Carroll, all these previously mentioned guys here, now you're looking at basically after Jamal Roberts, it's now a bunch of guys with very little to no experience. Tavoris Jones saw a few cups of coffee this past season at running back, but he's a really highly pedigreed guy coming out of high school, but as of yet has not taken the reins, that's for sure. Austin Dendy, a true freshman, well, he made the transition to running back after being considered an athlete coming out of high school. Marquise Davis, the recently signed four-star high school player, could he get some action as a true freshman, as Lacy did this past season? I certainly think it's possible. And Brendan Haygood, another recent signing, formerly signed up with Boise State as well. By the way, it seems like Boise State can recruit a running back if you want to be optimistic there as well. And by the way, quickly on Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter winning the Heisman Trophy, I got to say, I think I would have voted for Travis Hunter, but I was surprised. It would really seem like Jeanty had all of the momentum there, at least in the media support and the fan support that I had seen. So a little bit surprising there that Travis Hunter won the award, but frankly, I think he was definitely deserving. He was rather unprecedented with his production, at least in modern football, on both sides of the ball. And as I said before, I think these last couple portal cycles have probably spoiled Missouri fans a little bit. So understandably, after Missouri has now lost, I would say, three guys that they really wanted to keep and probably wanted to be part of the rotation next season. What's the first time you can really say that since Missouri lost Dominic Lovett a couple of seasons ago? So understandably, Missouri fans are feeling some angst right now, and some are even saying that they're basically done with this sport. Well, I think they're probably overreacting a little bit in the emotion of the whole deal, but I do have to question something, though. I was saying, hey, why recruit developmental prospects anymore after Aiden Glover decided to enter the transfer portal? Well, heck, why even recruit high school players anymore? It is a logical question, and I want to just talk about how Missouri fans really need to learn how to compartmentalize these days as well. So let's talk about all that here in just a second. But first, of course, it is that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bring you all the great football action that you've come to love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins on December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 10 a.m. Central, leading into our first matchup, which is SMU against Penn State at 11 a.m. Central. Then Clemson looks to upset Texas in a showdown at 3 o'clock. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. So in the de facto, hey, free agency 24/7, 365 world we all find ourselves, well, what is the point of recruiting certainly developmental players, but heck, even non 5-star, 4-star, ready to play type of high school players? Because as one of my longtime supporters, 573Ts, likes to say, by the way, some great merch over there at 573Ts. Check them out. It's essentially an NFL roster. You come in to play, and there is no question about that. And even guys who do come in to play, like Kewan Lacy, end up leaving anyway. And as Gabe DeArmond has pointed out, there's really no reason to redshirt anyone anymore. Hard to disagree with that sentiment whatsoever. But another sentiment, this comes from Rod, who tweeted me this morning. He says he's not buying tickets to games anymore. He's not going to be following the Tigers online anymore. He says, I think I'll take my kids to Chiefs games instead. I've bled black and gold all my life, and my favorite part has been recruiting and growing the program. That's over, and it sucks. And honestly, I understand that sentiment. I really do. I think it maybe is a little bit of an overreaction, though. When we did just have Brady Cook on the Missouri roster for 5 seasons, and he was about as much of a classic old story as you're going to possibly get. And even somebody like Luther Burden, who was only here for 3 seasons, well, it was all 3 seasons with Missouri, and I personally saw Luther Burden grow a lot in his 3 seasons at Missouri in a whole bunch of different ways. But at the same time, there is no doubt, Rod, and everybody else who feels this way, that that type of thing is less common than it used to be. And if that bothers you a little bit, I can't totally blame you. My thing is, when it comes to all of the behind-the-scenes stuff and all the machinations, I'll be honest with you, these days, I compartmentalize it. Just tell me who's playing. That's all I really want to know, because I used to feel really obligated to figure out all of the different machinations behind the scenes and all the minutia of how all these negotiations are happening. And I've had some everydayers reach out to me and say, hey, I'd like to hear about this stuff. But the God's honest truth is, I think most of the audience feels the same way that I do. If anything, it's almost like the old cliche of don't see how the sausage is made. Just put some mustard on it and put it on my plate and I'll chow it down. But don't tell me how the sausage is actually made. That's kind of how I'm feeling about all of this off the field stuff in college football these days. It's almost too much. There's too many details, and it's also wildly secretive too. You know, am I going to spend my entire life trying to dig this stuff up, or can I just watch football if that's okay with all of you? And honestly, it seems like most of the audience agrees with me. So back to the old cliche that I've said several times on this program, Jerry Seinfeld, his whole bit about how sports fans essentially root for laundry. Well, I would encourage all of us to lean into that as much as possible. Don't think about how the sausage is made. Just hold on to that sweet, sweet smelling clean laundry. And as always, context is really important as well, because, of course, those of you who listen to this program are like me. You focus mostly on Missouri. Some of you focus solely on Missouri and aren't really thinking about the rest of the country. Well, believe me, Missouri is far from the only major program that is losing guys. So, again, what are we losing? Compared to who? Compared to what? And what quantity? And what quality? Because if you look at Penn State, for instance, well, their backup quarterback just entered the transfer portal. Georgia had a cornerback enter the portal a couple weeks ago. And these are teams that are in the 12-team playoff fighting for a championship. In theory, that's what all of this is about, but considering the timing of the portal, the timing of the playoff, the timing of the start of second semester academically, it's hard to blame guys who have questions about their playing time heading into next year to explore their options. back in the day, yeah, you didn't really have that type of option. It was hey, I'm going to have to sit out a year anyway, so sure, I'll stick it out at Penn State for another month, that type of deal. But you can't tell me that if the rules were different in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, that those guys wouldn't have been exactly the same way. Back then, it was just, well, either I quit the team and quit football forever, or I have to sit out a year. Your options were much more limited, which, I don't know, may have been good for fans, I guess, but all I know is the past couple seasons, Missouri's selling out, and that wasn't necessarily the case in the pre-portal era of, say, 2016 to 2019. And speaking of developing guys, well, with the recent quarterback news that Miller Moss has somewhat spurned Missouri for Louisville, his logic was exactly the logic of one listener who I have who pointed out that, hey, Brom takes guys to the NFL. So, and that's exactly what Moss did. He said Coach Brom is the type of guy who puts quarterbacks in the league. So hard to completely argue with Miller Moss's logic there. But in this reality here with Missouri chasing for a new quarterback, I've had a lot of Missouri fans really stumping for Sam Horn and Matt Zollers in particular, and basically for Missouri to just roll with who is currently on the roster at the quarterback position. And I definitely don't hate that particular logic. I don't. And in a previous world where there were no transfers, hey, I'd be talking myself into, hey, it's just Tommy John. He's not throwing curveballs. You know, Sam Horn's elbow should be fine on the football field. Let's see his immense talent out there. And if it doesn't work out, maybe Matt Zollers truly is that special guy who can come in and, if not compete for championships immediately, I don't think anyone's expecting that out of a true freshman, but can he at least get his feet wet? And maybe that'll be a positive thing for Missouri heading into the new stadium year of 2026. But I think, honestly, again, just like 573T said there, it's essentially an NFL roster every year. You need to come into play. Well, I don't think that there are any you just take a year offs in the SEC anymore. There are no more transition seasons. And certainly unlike the NFL, where if you're the worst team in the league, well, you at least get a number one draft pick or a higher draft pick, that type of thing. Obviously, there is no incentive to lose whatsoever in college football or in the SEC. So every season, you should be trying to win. You know, Sam Horn, I would love nothing more than to see Sam Horn come in and ball out, win the starting job and throw for 4,000 yards and win the Heisman Trophy next season. Who wouldn't love to see that? The problem is with Sam Horn and how his career's gone so far, I just don't think you could count on that. And I think it would be frankly irresponsible to count on that, a true freshman, and then I almost called him Chris Pine once again, but no, Drew Pine, not the actor Chris Pine, but Missouri backup quarterback Drew Pine. I think he's more of a backup. Let's put it that way. So I just think it would be irresponsible considering Eli Drinkwitz in the athletic department. Hey, they have NIL infrastructure and money to burn here. You might as well go use it. And at the very least, bring in somebody who is a capable competitor with Sam Horn and Matt Zollers. And you know what? All these portal happenings have really overshadowed a lot of other things happening around Missouri sports, including that we're 2 weeks away from the Music City Bowl. Also, Missouri basketball, its win over Kansas. It feels like we should still be celebrating, but all I'm thinking about is the portal for the most part. So I got to talk some more hoops coming up here in just a little bit, including some good news about Anthony Robinson. But first, I want to talk about FanDuel, where you got to get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. It truly is the best place to do all your live betting on all types of sports, including college football, where Missouri is a 3.5-point favorite over Iowa in the Music City Bowl currently. Got to say, I'm surprised it sat there. Maybe my friends at FanDuel know something I don't about Iowa, but that's suspiciously low to me. Let's just put it that way. But either way, once again, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. And to me, the simplest place as well. Unlike other DFS competitors, PrizePicks makes it simple. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And join now because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas. By the way, PrizePicks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So again, it really feels like Missouri fans hardly got to celebrate the Missouri victory over Kansas before all of this portal news came fast and furious. But I got to say, that win for Dennis Gates and the program, the significance of it really can't be overstated. Missouri had lost 20 games in a row, including the opener this season to Memphis, obviously going back to last season. My goodness, did Missouri basketball fans and just the team, obviously, did we really need something? And that wasn't just something. That was, other than an NCAA tournament run, obviously a Final Four, a conference title, something like that. That is what Missouri basketball fans desire more than anything, a win over the Kansas Jayhawks. And we got it for the first time in a dozen years. Again, the significance of that really cannot be overstated. And I even noticed it the Long Island game this past weekend. Yeah, the students were very much gone, understandably so. It's Christmas break. I get it. But I thought the alums, the townies, the regular folks, the non-students came out pretty good for an LIU game, a rainy LIU game. I was duly impressed, to be honest with you. So a lot of good things happening with Missouri basketball right now. This team is looking like a lot of fun right now, honestly. I'm looking forward to rooting for them for the rest of the season. Unfortunately, we'll be rooting for Anthony Robinson the rest of the season as well. He took a bit of a scary fall at one point in the second half against Long Island, but after the game, Dennis Gates said he's, quote, perfectly fine. Again, a lot of times, boy, guys just get undercut. That type of deal is always a scary, hard fall on that wood floor. I think that's among as important as any reasons why you've seen in recent years the secondary defender running in at the last second to take a charge. Well, college basketball's really tried to take that out of the game, I think for safety reasons as much as aesthetic basketball pleasing versions as much as anything, because these days, yeah, these guys come in flying hard and fast, and kind of the last thing you want to do is knock them off balance and have them just constantly landing on the floor. You see in the NBA over the years, this happens more and more and more. Guys get hurt, having to play 82 games plus the playoffs, all this stuff. Definitely something basketball's trying to get out of the game a little bit for sure. And by the way, one more final football note here. New Mexico is hiring Idaho's Jason Eck as its head coach. And what does that have to do with Missouri? Well, Kirby Moore, the Missouri offensive coordinator, had been rumored to be a candidate for that job. So that's a potential job that takes Kirby Moore off of the potential head coach hire list there. And again, head coach there is the important distinction, because I don't really see Kirby Moore leaving for another offensive coordinator or any type of other non-head coaching opportunity at this point. That just doesn't seem to align. But if he could get the New Mexico head coaching job, that would be understandable. But since that's off the table, sure looks like Kirby is more than likely going to be on board next season as well. But hey, thanks for being on board the Locked On Mizzou podcast today. Thanks for making this show your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Chris Gordy's Locked On SEC. Can't wait to be on the squad show again this week, running always on Thursday in this feed. But you got to check out the Locked On SEC feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts as well. So until next time, I am John Miller, and this has been Locked on Mizzou.